so much for joining me today. If you're new here, thank you so much. Don't forget to subscribe and like, and yeah, let's just get to it. Today I am actually going to talk about breastfeeding versus formula feeding. Now this has been like a great big debate ever since, I don't know, ever since dawn. Still to this day, mothers are shaming other mothers for formula feeding, and it's just not right, and I see this too often and it needs to be stopped. There are pros and cons with each thing, and you know, it totally depends on what your circumstances are. If you are unable to breastfeed, then you have to choose the route of formula feeding, and there is nothing wrong with feeding your child formula. I am a big firm believer of fed is best. So you know, anybody who advocates breastfed is best, I really don't like you. I am sorry, but you know, your child needs to be fed, whether it is breastfeeding or formula feeding. Just feed your child. That's what that matters. As a mother, you want the best for your child, and that best can come in the form of breast milk or formula. So yeah, I have written down a whole lot of pros and cons with each thing, and now mind you, these might not be everything. If you have anything to add to the list, don't forget to comment it down in the comment section. So let's talk about breastfeeding. Now, breastfeeding is what every mother wants to do for their child. After you have a baby, you want to try and breastfeed, but you know, there are moms who probably, you know, due to their circumstances or their choice, they just don't want to breastfeed, you know, and that's fine also. But my main goal when I had my son 2.5 years ago was to breastfeed, and I did try. I tried every remedy in the book, and I had a very traumatic childbirth experience with him, so that kind of you know, it kind of made things difficult for me to breastfeed, as I had lack of supply, and I tried for 2 months and it just wouldn't work. He was in the nursery for about a week, and I was unable to go visit him as often because I've had a cesarean, and it was it was a long recovery, and it was very painful for me. So you know, all these things added up, me not producing enough breast milk. Mind you, for 2 months I did pump every 2 hours. I did follow the power pumping. I was on different like supplements and things like that, like breastfeeding tea and this and that, and I was consulted by 2 lactation consultants, and yeah, so nothing worked out, and we decided, without making my mental health even worse than it was, to just exclusively formula feed, and our boy is thriving. He's almost 2.5 years old. He's brighter than, you know, most kids, and he is super, like, he's very active. There is nothing wrong with him at all, and I just, you know, couldn't care less. Like, I have no regrets, you know. So that's my story, and every other mom's story may differ from that, and you know, that's fine. So let's talk about the pros of breastfeeding. It's affordable, you know, you make it yourself. You have the factory right here. Easily accessible and affordable, you know, so that's like one of the main things. And also, there is no prep or clean up. You know, you just gotta make sure you have good hygiene, obviously, as the mother. You know, clean up around your breast area before you do a feed. Make sure you shower. It's really easy in that regard, and you can travel easily because, you know, you carry your with you wherever you go, so it's easy to take your child with you and feed them on the go. It's just like that. There's no fussing about. It's nutritious. Obviously there's a lot of benefits, proven benefits of breastfeeding your child, and yes, it is better than formula feeding, but you know, there's a lot of cons to breastfeeding as well, which I'll get into. Nutrition wise, breast milk is better than formula, and you can of course bond with your child much more because he's latched on to you, literally a part of you, and you know, it's just him or her and you know, it's that moment, and you just, yeah, it's just a beautiful thing. Breastfeeding is a beautiful thing, and it's, you know, it's natural, it comes to you, and yeah, so you can bond with your child more. And if you are an overproducer, you can have the option to donate or store for later, which then just say if you are unable to breastfeed after 6 months, 8 months, a year, if you have a freezer stash, great, you know, you can use the freezer stash to give breast milk to your baby for a longer time. And if you do fall pregnant again and have other complications and things like that, you still have breast milk saved up for your current child. That way there's no issues. It does help with losing weight. I have seen this happen to a lot of women, and I have heard them say that as well, that you know, it because it burns a lot of calorie and things like that, so you are losing a lot of weight while you breastfeed, which is a great thing. So like I said before, you can express and freeze some for later, which is great, you know. Let's talk about the cons. Now, breastfeeding is not the same for everybody. It comes with a whole set of issues for certain moms, and some may find it really easy. You know, it's an issue if you underproduce, it's an issue if you overproduce. Nobody produces the most perfect amount each time for their child's need, you know, but the more you breastfeed, the more your system gets to know how much you have to produce. So it does take a mental toll, you know. If you are a person like me who already has mental health struggles, breastfeeding can add to that and make you more anxious, and it, you know, when you have anxiety, it's just gonna trigger and not produce milk at all, you know, because you're just stuck in this vicious cycle that you can't get out of. So it's really, really bad if you're trying too hard, basically. So you'll get stressful. It is hard work. Breastfeeding is hard work, and you're exhausted all the time, and you know, it is what it is. And lots of partners have made comments about how they feel useless because, you know, you carried the baby, you gave birth to the baby, and you're breastfeeding the baby, so they just feel like they're just waiting around this whole time, not being able to do anything. Some guys might love it, some partners might love it, and they might be like, hey, it's all you, boo, you do you, I'm okay over here. But you know, if somebody like my husband would feel terrible that, you know, he can't participate and experience the same thing that you're experiencing, and it's gonna make them feel left out, you know. And also when you breastfeed, you have to make sure, unless actually, okay, so with the partner thing, if you are overproducing, or if you're expressing and saving for later, then obviously your partner can feel included, and you might be able to give him the night feeds to do, and you can have a rest. So that's another option. but when you're breastfeeding, you have to watch what you eat, because you know certain foods can give reflux to the baby, or there are all these other issues that can relate. You know, if you are an alcohol drinker, I don't think it's recommended to drink, although I know a lot of moms complain about it. Or I mean, you went 9 months without drinking alcohol, so what's a little bit more, like, you know. I'm not a drinker, so that's not a concern of mine. But if you do drink, then you have to be careful of how much you drink, and how long to wait and things like that. So those things you have to really like take into consideration. And certain foods as well, like tomato based things, and yeah. And also you had to be on a high calorie diet, so there's enough carbs and fats in your system to produce breast milk, enough breast milk for your child. And you have to drink lots and lots and lots of water, which is good for you anyway. Even if you're formula feeding, you should be drinking a lot of water to keep yourself hydrated, especially postpartum. But it's kind of like that thing that you need to keep in mind. Okay, I need to drink, like I need to chug water, so I'll have enough breast milk produced, basically. And if you are a mom who's not comfortable with the size that you are postpartum, and you do want to get back into like diet and exercise, you can't do that if you're breastfeeding, because it's not really recommended. So it's just, you know, something that you have to wait for, I guess. If I'm breastfeeding, obviously I'm not gonna go into like my diet or exercise routine. Exercising is fine, I think it's just the diet, because it'll affect my breast milk production and things like that. So, and it is also difficult on working moms unless you're expressing, because you'd be separated from your child for a bigger part of your day, and yeah, it's just hard for somebody else to take care of your child when they are breastfed. And this leads to medical issues, like, you know, mastitis or clogged ducts and things like that, which are really painful. Apparently, I've never had these issues because I haven't breastfed for that long, but I do know friends who's breastfed and have had these issues, and they had to stop breastfeeding for a little while, you know, like cracked nipples, and there are so many medical issues that can go on when you're breastfeeding, and that's an inconvenience, you know. So yeah, but if you are expressing your I don't know about other countries, but in Australia, it's a requirement for your employer to provide you facilities to either breastfeed or express milk, like that time period and stuff, for your kids. And it's, you know, it's wonderful. It's a wonderful thing. And this breast milk digests really quickly, so within like 2-hour period it'll digest. And also little newborns have like tiny little marble size tummies, so they need to be fed really regularly. Every 2 to 3 hours is the goal. And it can be a pro and it can be a con, you know. So if the child is not hungry for a longer time, you can rest for a longer time. But then again, it's also good that they're digesting it quicker and passing it through. That way you can feed them more. Like, it's really like, I don't know, depending on what you think, you can take it as a pro or a con. I put it more towards a con, because, you know, you had to feed often, and if you're expressing, that's fine. You can put the baby on the breast now, and 2 hours later give him a bottle with breast milk, and then for the next feed you can put the baby on the other breast. So yeah, there are apps nowadays where you can track the feeding, breastfed or formula fed. So these things are very handy, and you can use them to keep track on the feeding cycles and how often the baby feeds and things like that. So that's very good. So when you have to feed frequently, if you don't want to introduce the bottle too soon for expressed milk, then you know obviously you're gonna have lack of sleep throughout the night and your partner can't help either. So after a while, trust me, it can get to you. You know, you could probably stretch it out for like a month, but after that it is just so difficult because babies love to stay awake during the night, and during the day you have other things to do, so you can't sleep when the baby is sleeping like everybody says to you too. So yeah, and there could be other issues like baby not latching on properly, tongue ties and things like that. Lots of little children have issues with the suckling motion. If they're preemie, it's hard for them to grasp that mechanism. So there are so many issues that can happen that will inhibit them from getting breastfed. That's another con. And also when it times to wean them off, it can be very difficult. One of my friends tells me all the time that her daughter is now, I think, 4 years old and still wants to be attached to the breast all throughout the night because she uses it as a comfort. And a lot of other moms have also said this, and even if they're not drinking any milk, it can be a comfort thing and so hard to get them off of it to be independent. And also obviously the other medical issues that's related to that. And also if you have to be on certain medications, then you probably have to stop breastfeeding for a while or can't breastfeed at all. You know, there are all these certain things. So with breastfeeding, to me, from what I put together, there's less pros and more cons, okay? But do I still recommend breastfeeding if you want to and if you can? Yes, okay? That should always be the first choice. But if you can't, should you be sad about it, regret it, and feel ashamed? No, you shouldn't. I'll tell you pros with formula feeding. I have more pros with formula feeding than cons, okay? This is not on purpose. This is just what came to my head and what I have written down. Now, with formula feeding, it is a fantastic alternative. Whoever came up with formula, thanks to you, you have saved us mothers from disgrace from the society. Even though we still get criticized, but you know, it just keeps our babies fed. And there are so many reasons why somebody could not breastfeed, and formula is a wonderful thing, and it's really amazing to have available for those of us who cannot breastfeed or who don't want to breastfeed due to whatever reason. And there are many varieties to pick from depending on your dietary requirements. There is the, you know, your regular cow milk, the formula that's made out of cow milk. There's goat's milk. I've seen ones where there's like vegan versions of like soy, made out of soy milk, or rice milk. There's so many varieties out there. It's crazy and it's amazing, you know. So there are different nutrients in different formulas. Obviously you can pick and choose. There's organic, there's non-organic, there's ones that helps with reflux. Yeah, so it's pretty darn good. There's a lot of variety. And dads can obviously feel more included, because you know, if you're formula feeding, you can have a day to yourself and daddies can feed the baby. You just gotta tell them to read the bottle, or you know, the amount that your baby has, and they'll just do it basically, and it's a nice bonding time for the baby and the dad as well. So I think it's a great thing. And it is very easy for working moms. When I was a working mom outside of home, it was amazing. I just had to put the formula powder into like this container that was separated, and I know that he would go through like 3 feeds while I'm at work, so I would fill like 3 little compartments, give it to the lady at the daycare, and they just do the rest of it. You just had to like tell them this is how much they feed and how often, and I just wrote it down and gave it to them, and baby was fed and very happy, you know. And now this again, formula takes longer to digest. This could be a pro or a con. Now I put it more towards a pro because it was convenient for us. Our baby slept for like good 4-hour chunks anyway when he was a newborn, and formula feeding kept him fuller for longer. And there was nothing wrong with him digesting it either. You know, he did have reflux, and that had nothing to do with formula, because when he was just being breastfed, he also had reflux. So I know it wasn't related to giving formula. But him digesting, you know, he had regular bowel movements, and he was having enough wet nappies and things like that, so he was basically fine. He wasn't uncomfortable or anything like that. And so we were able to get a bit longer of a rest than if I was to breastfeed him exclusively. And also he never had any latch issues when I was breastfeeding him, but if he did, then, you know, there are all these, if he did and there was an issue with bottle feeding, there are all these variety of teats nowadays in different shapes and sizes and whatever you can try. What worked for us was the Pigeon Peristaltic teats, which kind of have like a rippled effect, and because his mouth was really small and he was a tiny baby, he wasn't a preemie, but he was very, very small, and he loved that teat. That was the only teat that he would actually take, which was great. It worked out, and it might not work out for my daughter, but you know, that's something we have to see. But there are, like, I've seen this one called Minby, I think. It's like a completely different shape. Like, there are so many varieties out there, so you know, you don't have to worry. You know, when you're breastfeeding, it's just one nipple. You know, you can get a nipple shield, but I haven't seen a lot of variety in nipple shield shapes. So you know, so many different teats out there that you can try. So there's not a lot of latch issues. You just have to make sure they open their mouth a lot, and you can put the bottle in. Other than that, yeah, there's hardly any latch issues with a bottle. Them being interested in the bottle or not, that might be an issue. I have seen some moms complain about that their baby is not really interested in taking the bottle. Then I'm sure there are ways around it. You can talk to a child health nurse regarding that, and come up with a solution for that. With babies though, you gotta try the same thing at least 20 times before they get used to it. So it might be, you know, something that you just gotta keep trying. And then it's easy with medical issues. I've had a cesarean. There are lots of other moms who has to stay in the hospital for longer, and sometimes your baby is a preemie and the baby has to stay in the hospital for longer, and you have to go home and just visit. So it's very easy if they're formula fed, because you know, you don't have to worry so much about expressing, or you know, like going there to breastfeed, and you know, being available. Some moms have terrible medical issues like accidents and things like that, and they're in a coma, or you know, like they are just bedridden or something, and you are definitely unable to breastfeed. You know, if you've had cancer, breast cancer, or any other form of cancer that's you know, limiting you from breastfeeding, formula feeding is the way to go. And it's also easier to wean off. I found it was really easy to wean off my son from the bottle. one day I just stopped giving him the bottle and gave him a sippy cup, and he was fine with it. I know not all the children are the same, but you know, if they're a little older, you can explain to them. But it's easier than definitely easier than weaning them off from the breast, from what I've heard. And moms obviously have the freedom to their own diet. They don't have to really like be careful of drinking alcohol or eating certain things, thinking that it's gonna cross and go into breast milk. They can just follow their normal diet that they like, and if they do want to lose weight, they can start a diet to lose weight and things like that. So moms have that freedom with formula feeding. And there are cons about formula feeding. It's not free. You gotta buy it. The formula we used to give to Kasper, one tin, was about $29, I want to say, Australian dollars, and it would last for 2 weeks, I want to say, 2.5 weeks. So it can get expensive, you know. And if you have twins, like, you know, twins or triplets, it's obviously, you know, you're doubling the amount. So it can get expensive. It doesn't come free. So that's a major con about formula feeding. And it's too much prep and clean. You had to sterilize, you have to wash them, you have to, oh god, it was a nightmare. It was like a routine on its own. I hated washing up all these bottles. What I used to do though, this is a great tip, I'd use a bottle in the morning and then I would just rinse it off with just warm water and then put it in the fridge, and it'll stay in the fridge for until the next feed. And I would have either a couple of bottles like that, or I'll just store them in the fridge with nothing in it, just the empty bottle, but just rinse with warm water. That way I don't have to do the whole soapy warm water, sterilize and all that, because it's not going to develop any bacteria or any whatever issues because it's in the fridge. And then what I'll do is just obviously make the formula, put it in, warm it up, and then feed the baby again, and then rinse it off, put it back in the fridge. So that's one way to cut down. And then in the evenings, me or hubby would do the whole soap water, soapy warm water wash up for all the parts of the bottle, the teat, the rim, the cap, whatever. And then we would sterilize all the bottles that we've used for the day, and then do the whole night routine again. I think we used to do like one sterilized session in the morning and one sterilized session in the evening. So we would gather all the bottles that we fed with in the throughout the night and sterilize, wash and sterilize in the morning, and then do another one for the whole daytime. So it worked out fine, but it's a lot of work. So, and it's hard to travel with. Kasper was 6 months old. We traveled interstate. That was his first trip, and it was a nightmare being in a hotel for a week and trying to wash bottles. And we had to take all the stuff like the washing liquid, the bottle brush, and sterilizing stuff, ask them for a microwave so we can sterilize the bottle, and warm water and this and that. Oh my god, it was such a task to do that, but you know, it's doable. It just takes longer, and it's not really a vacation when you have to do these certain things. But yeah, that's a major con, honestly. And it is obviously not as nutritious as breast milk. That you gotta know that. And also, you know, formula feeding is not socially acceptable, and you might get backlash from other people, and you might have to hear criticism and judgments about your child being on formulas. And you can connect with your baby, but probably not as much as breastfeeding. But formula feeding gives the chance for dads to connect with the baby also, because they feel like they're included and they're doing a part for raising the baby also. And sorry, another pro for formula feeding is that you don't have to deal with any of the medical issues that comes along with breastfeeding. Anyway, I hope this video helped somebody understand the pros and cons of breastfeeding and formula feeding. This is solely my opinion, and you're welcome to think that I'm completely wrong, but from my research and my personal experience, this is what I came up with. And at the end of the day, you just want your child to be fed, breastfed or formula fed. It doesn't matter. You just gotta pick and choose what's suitable for your circumstances, and others really don't have a say in it, because it's your child, your breast, and the formula that you purchased, so with your money. That's it, you know. I hope and thank you to all the moms who are doing a wonderful job. It doesn't matter if you're breastfeeding or formula feeding, you all are doing a fantastic job. And be proud of yourselves for bringing a child to this world and raising the child and trying your best every single day. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to subscribe and like and share. You might help somebody out there. If you have any comments, opinions, even criticism, put it in the comment section down below, and I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.